Hey guys, today we are going to build a serverless real chat application in React Native, and we did the first UI part in another video, which you can see we actually did everything related to the UI. This is the list of users. We had some mock data and we had a search box to search the user and add it as a friend, and you could also go to the chat list, the chat room with that user. You could also see the avatar and the text, and you were able to send chat to him, but it was just UI and it was not connected to anywhere. So today we are going to connect it with the Firebase API. So we want to use a Firebase Realtime Database service. So let's start with it, and thank you for leaving a thumbs up for this video. Okay, here is my package.json. As you can see, I don't have anything special unless the Firebase API and React Native gifted chat package, which is a little bit old, but it's still functional and it helps us a lot in terms of having the chat page and scrolling every feature that we need in terms of UI. I know that it's not that much clean, but to avoid any complexity for this project, I don't consider security or writing a very clean code and optimized in order to make it easier for you to understand. And this is my database structure. I actually have two objects here. The first one is chat rooms. I store every chat room. For example, if you have a communication with user A, so you need to have one chat room, and each chat room has two users, first user and second users, and an array of messages that are inside their chat. And the other one is users. We store all the users here. A user can have avatar only and a username, nothing more for now. And also the friends array, which contains list of my friends. And of course, we don't use any authentication inside our application, so it's not going to be that much safe. But later, if this video got more than 100 thumbs up, then I can know that it's working great for you. And I make another video of this series to make it more complete, even having group chat support and security, authentication, and lots of other stuff. So the first thing that we need to do is to set up a Firebase project for my project. So I go to the console, firebase.google.com, and create a new project. I can name it whatever I want. I think it's fine. Continue. I don't need any Google Analytics for it, so I create my project. And then I need to go to the real-time database and create a database. So it asks me, where do you want to place the server? It's not important for us. And this one is an important option, because if you don't pay attention to it, you may get some errors while you are working with the app. So let's explain it to you. What should we do for the configuration here? This is the screen that I can configure and see everything inside my database. The second tab is for rules. And here, as you can see, my rules is read and write. It should be to true, because otherwise it will be a read-only project. I want every user to access to my database. They can add some data. They can get it from server back. So I change it to true and publish it. No problem. If it has some security issues, we later can add authentication to the project and fix these security issues. And here, when I insert some data, I can see the data and explore it from this panel. Then I should go to the project settings screen and create a new app for my project. Let's do it this one, the web one, my chat app, and register the app. We need to actually install the Firebase, as I have done it before. I don't do it again, but if you want to do, you just need to copy this one and paste it inside your console, so it will immediately install the Firebase package. Then I have to copy this section. This is for configuration of Firebase app.js. And here I have also wrote some comments, so I don't forget what we are going to do. The import section, the Firebase configuration that we need for project. If you are just downloading the source code of this video, be careful that you need to replace these data with yours. And then I have to initiate the app. I don't use the reference, so I can remove this one, and yeah, the configuration is ready, and let's start coding. Okay, let's move to the chat app.js file, as it's the main file of my project. And here I have some comments that we should do them. Inside the login section, when the user actually, let me show you, when the user, for example, insert his name and press the login button, we should create a new user if this user is new and insert it inside database. And also we have to set the friend list change listener, because whenever there is a new friend added myself, so I have to see him without refreshing the screen that this user is added to my friend list as well. I have another function on add friend. In this function, we are going to actually search a user inside the database, and if we could find it, then we add this user to my friend list, and also add myself to that user friend list as well. So for login, the first thing that I have to do is to getting the database. So I can do it like const database. It equals to get database from Firebase. I have to import it here like this, import get database from Firebase database. So const user equals to, I want to have an asynchronous function. So find user, and I want to pass the username. I can get it from the state here, username. Yeah, and let's create another function here, const find user, and takes the name, and then write the code to find the user. Actually, again, we need the get database. This one should be asynchronous. Then I have to do like const my snapshot equals to await get function from Firebase, and within it I have to pass the, oh, it's imported from rank library. The get one should be from Firebase. Now let's see the parameters. We have to pass a query to it to be able to get this user from the database. So what I'm going to do is to write a ref function again, and I, as a first parameter of ref function, let me show you why it's not working. Ref. Yeah, the first one is the database. I have to pass it, and the second one is the path of our reference. For example, it should be inside the users. For example, it should point to the chat room or users. So users, and then I have slash, and I want to go to the child that I want. So I can do username here, and then return the value of my snapshot, which can do like my snapshot.val. It's a function that it calculates the value which is inside my database. For example, users Ali, and it gets me this object containing username, friends list, and avatar. Oh, we forgot we should pass the name. Yeah, we have an error here. Yeah, that's fine. So let's get back here. Then I can check if user. Then I need to store my user data somewhere. Let's have a state for it. Const my data, because I later need to send this data and keep it here. So set my data, use state, and the first value should be null. Set my data to user. Otherwise, create a new user for it. So let's do const new user object equals to the name should be, or better, we have username. Username equals to the username that user input, and avatar. So I can have, we actually need an interface to get the avatar from user, but to make it simple, I just hardcode the avatar one. I will have a random avatar from this website. It takes me whenever it runs a unique avatar for this query. And now we have to store the data inside database. I will be using the set function, and inside it I have to send a ref. So I create a new ref using the ref function, and I pass the database, and the second one is the path that we want to this user to be stored at, which will be again users slash and username. And then I have to specify the data actually which we prepared new user object, and I have to also store it inside my local state, set my data, and then we redirect user to the screen that we want. Let's run it to see if it's working or not. Yeah, Masood, login. It might take some time. Yeah, that's normal. We should add a loader later to it. And yeah, you can see we already logged in, and let's see our database. And yeah, the user's object is created, and I have the Masood object within it. And the only thing which is left for here is to run a listener to listen to the server. Whenever the friend list of mine is changed, I have to reflect it inside my user interface. So my user ref, and ref function, database, and the path, users slash $, and username. And then for having a listener, I can use the onValue function. The first one is the query. So I pass my ref, and the second one is actually an arrow function. Whenever there is a change, this function callback will run. So I get a snapshot and write my function body here. Let's get the data, const data snapshot dot value. I can set my friends list using set users, I guess. Yeah, set users and have it data dot friends. We actually didn't pass the friends property inside registration phase, but because it was empty, so we decided not to send it. But when the first friend added to my list, it will be generated. And also I need to set my data. I need to update it because we have a friend. So prev data, yeah, and return a new object which contains everything from before, and the friend list is updated. Should be data.friends. So the next thing that we should do is adding a new friend using this form. Here, user type, for example, and he wants to add Ali as his friend. So let's do it inside the onAdd function. The first step is the finding the user and adding it to my friends list, and also add me to his friends. I think this one is the most sophisticated part of the project, so let's focus more on it. I do the first part. I need the database again, base and get database. First, let's check if this user already exists inside our database or not. So const user, and it should be find await find user, and we should pass the username, which is coming from the input element of UI inside the name variable. So I just pass the name variable, and then I check if user exists or not. So I have to check some stuff here. The first one is don't let user add himself as a friend. So let's block it. If user.username equals to my data.username, then let's just return and have it here. We can later add a pop-up or notification to show the user what the error is. Don't let user add a user 2 times. So let's do it. First, check if I have any friends. My data.friends exist, and then check if this user is already added to my friend list or not. So my data.friends find index, and then friend or f equals to f.username equals to this user.username. I actually need to check if the index is more than 0, which means it is founded. So then I have to create a new chat room. As we discussed, inside database, we have chat rooms for each user that is connecting with another user. We have 2 users in each chat room. So let's do it. Const new chat room ref equals to a ref equals to a ref, and database and the path. It will be chat rooms. I don't specify the rest, so Firebase add a unique ID to it. And I have to pass it to the push function actually, because the push function create a new item inside database. It's like the set function, but it also gets me the ID of newly generated item. So I can use this ID to save it in the user objects as well. So let's do it. The push function and the ref and yeah, the data. First user. We just store username. We can have something like last message sent or the date time, but we want to go simple here. My data dot username, and the second user user dot username, and also an array of messages. Yeah, this one is ready, so I can read the key in this way. Const new chat room ID equals to this one that key to get the key, and then let's use it. We actually did this one. Create a new chat room. Join myself to this user friend list. Let's do it. We want to update my current user object, so I should use a new function of Firebase, which is the update function. And let's see what it takes. Again, the ref one and the value. So let's do it. Ref database. You can see it's so simple. And the path users slash my data.username, and here I can pass the data. Here we just want to update the friends list. We don't want to touch anything else, so I just pass the friends. So let's first get the current friends and pass it here, and also add a new one, because maybe user already had some friends and we want to append to the list, so we don't want to remove them. Const my friends and my data.friends, or an empty array. If it doesn't exist, then we will have an empty array as a friends, and I can put it here, my friends. So for the new one, I'm gonna have the username, and it should be, actually it is not joining myself, it is for the other one, add this user to my friend list. So this is my object, so I should have details of the other user. So user.username, avatar of him, user.avatar, and the last one is chat room ID, so we can get the chat room. And let's do new chat room ID. That's why we did this part, so we can pass it and connect it to that user. And let's do this part, join myself to this user. We have to do the same thing, but with different data, database, user, here, that username. Here we should have list of friends of that user, not mine. Const user friends, and user.friends, or an empty array if he hasn't added any friend yet. So let's do it like this, and this data should be my data. My data.username, my data.avatar, and the chat room is the same between the users. So I think the add functionality is done. So whenever we actually go here and add a user, when we press this button, we will have the name of that user want to add to his list. Then we get database, we check if this user exists or not. If it doesn't exist, we don't do anything. If it existed, then we check it's not myself, then we check it's not added before, and then we create a new chat room, and we will have the chat room ID, and then we are joining myself to his user list. So it will be an update operation to change the friends list of that user, and here also changing my friend list. When we do this update, what happens? The listener that we previously added to the project will be called because the friends array is changed. Let's see, this one should be around the on value, and it will update my user interface. So let's try. Let's have two emulators here. Refresh them. This one should be Masood, and this one should be Alex. So I want to add Alex from my device. I type Alex, it's his username, I press add. And you can see it's applied and it's working fine. It is also automatically updated the other user friend list, which is so good. Let's reset data. Let's log out and log in again, see if data is persisted or not. Masood, Alex. And yeah, it is working. If you guys enjoyed so far, please leave it a like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me to build better content for you. And wow, Alex is very pretty. And it's myself. I don't know what this avatar is, but yeah, nice. So if I go to the Alex section, then inside this page, I should be able to send him some messages and also see his messages. So let's do this part. Okay, let's go for the chat component. We have the chat.js. I actually added my data to send it to the chat component and receiving it here because we later need to access this data. So here we should fetch the old messages and have some listeners for any change of the messages. So let's first load old messages. I need to create an asynchronous function, load data, asynchronous, then I won't have any parameter, and within it I can call it load data. And of course, the first thing that we need is database. So let's do database and get database from Firebase. Then I can get my chat room. Const my chat room is a function. We can name it fetch messages, and then have it like here. Within it, I need database again. Const snapshot. This is something that we did in the previous part, same as that. So I wait, and we are going to use the get function. We just want to get a data once, so we don't need to activate any listener. So I use the get function. This one, again, imported from wrong library. Be careful for these mistakes. It can ruin your whole day. Get, and what should be pass it, the ref one, I guess. and database, and also the path, chat rooms this time, slash my data.chatroom ID, something like that. No, actually we should get the selected user dot, it was chatroom ID, I guess. Chatroom ID. Let's see, we will have it. Yeah, we update that user. Yeah, exactly. In our listener, we update the users, so we will have every details of that user here, so that we can access the chatroom ID to get the chatroom, and then return the value of my snapshot. That's it. It should be asynchronous. Let's get back. My chatroom is ready. I can set messages. This is array of every message that we are showing to the screen. So my array should be here, my chat room. But before just sending our data, we need to render it and make it friendly to our component, the gifted chat. Otherwise, it cannot interact with it. So let's just apply quick change on our data inside another function. I call it render messages. And it can take the messages. Do we have this global? Yeah, let's messages. And actually, I had this structure. Right, let's move it here. This is the structure that we should have for every message object inside my data. So let's prepare it. Return messages. If it doesn't exist, we can return an empty array. And also, first we have to reverse it. Otherwise, we cannot see the messages in the right order. So I reverse my array. Then I have a map. I get the MSG and index. And I can now implement this structure. The first one is ID. I have to have it. Underline ID, it should be the username, because we don't have IDs here. We use username as identifier, actually. We can first pass everything that we have, which is inside MSG. For ID, we can also, oh, it's a message ID, not the user ID. We don't have any message ID, so I can use the index here just to send something unique to this component. And then the user object, it also has an ID. We can use the username here. I have to check if the sender of message is me, it should be my ID, otherwise the other user ID, or actually username. So let's do msg.sender if it equals to my data.username, then pass my data.username, otherwise selected user.username. This one is for ID, the other one avatar and name. Avatar, we can have the same check, just copy it. If it is me, it should be my data.avatar, otherwise selected user.avatar, and we should have a name. We can put the username like this. So we prepared the data, we just need to call this function first, and then pass the result to my state. Then it's time to have a listener for our data. Whenever the message is changed, we should render the component again and show the new message to the user. So I do const database, get database again, and let's get the chatroom ref, const chatroom ref database, and chat rooms slash selected user dot chatroom ID, and have the onValue function, pass the ref, and the function snapshot const data snapshot.data, no, that's bad. And then it's time to set messages again with newer data, render messages and data.messages. And the only thing is left, it's a small optimization. Whenever user exists from this screen, we should remove this listener, don't work anymore. So I can do it using the auth function, and I have to pass first the reference, which I can get it from here. What did I do? Yeah, and yeah, that's it. It will deattach the listener from this component whenever it dies. So we actually didn't need the database here. we can have it like this. And I have a warning here. Let me check. Yeah, I have used some parameters, and it's better we add it to this array. So we update it whenever the chat room changes or these functions, but these functions won't be changed. It's my ESLint that warns me. So let's do whatever he wants. For this one, I think he's suggesting we do it inside the use callback hook. It's not that much important, but let's do it for now. Yeah, because if I don't do it, then whenever the component changes, then this function will be initiated again, and this function start working again and cause some performance issues for my app. So I only need to use callback and then pass my function and a dependency array, and I'll add everything that I use. So it is added. For this one also the same. Use callback, my dependency array. Yeah. The other section is the send functionality. We actually get an array of messages that user want to send, but I don't know why it is array. Only the first element of this array is useful, which contains the text that user want to send to the other user. So I get it in this way, and then I can fetch the first messages from server. Const database, get database. Here we have to update the chat room object to insert new messages to the end of it. So let's get the current chat room, wait, fetch messages. It should be better to be fetch chat room, not fetch messages. And to have every messages that we have inside the chat room, last messages, we actually want to first get every messages and then add the new one to the end of it and put everything inside our database. It is because the Firebase, it doesn't let us in this way to append to it. We have to specify everything. So I could use the user state to fetch the current messages, but it is safer that we get a fresh one from database, we append to it, and then we post it to backend. Current chat room.messages, or if it doesn't exist, an empty array. Then let's do the update. The first one is ref database, chat rooms. It should be chat room ID. Messages is equal to an array first, every element that we had before, so last messages, and then add a new message here. We should have three properties here. The first one is the text. Of course, it is MSG first index. The second one is sender, the user that wants to send. It is myself, so I can use my data. And the last one is the time that we created this message, so we can show when it is generated. So created at new date. And then we actually did this. Where was it? Here. Let's add the message to my list also, so set messages. I have to do this in a way that the chat library recommended, so I do prev messages. I first get them, and then gifted chat.append current messages is prev messages, and the new one, which is the message. Yeah, let's fix the dependency array. So the only thing is this one. We should tell which user I am, so it can show me this on the right side or left side of the screen. So the ID should be my data.username, and yeah, that's it. I think it should be working fine. Let's try. This one was Masood. The left one was Alex, so Masood wants to send a message. We have a problem. Okay, there are some issues inside the code. Let's first fix them. I found that I forgot to put the await syntax here for the fetch messages, and also this is my chat room. I should send my messages, not the whole chat room. So messages. Here also msg0.text should be used instead of msg0. And the last thing which is left is this mistake. I have to put my ref, send it to onValue, so I fix it. I also better to check if MSGs exist, and here send the empty array because we did some operation on it. It's better to be like this. Okay, let's first remove everything that we have in the database and then start testing again. So I can remove it easily using this one, delete, and then, yeah, of course, they will have an error. So this one should be Masood, and the other one should be Alex. And Masood want to add Alex as a friend. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, this time I'm a girl. And of course, Alex is always a girl. I don't know why. And yeah, so let's send a message. Hi, Alex. How are you doing today? Send. Yeah, this is sent. And let's see if we have it. Yes. And let's see if it's real time. Thanks. I'm doing great. Yeah, this is working very good as expected. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a thumbs up. It took me so much time to actually prepare this project, and I'm sorry if I made a big delay between the first episode of this series and the second one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe now to don't miss the new videos, and have a great day.